We offer support to corporate and unincorporated businesses, the agricultural sector, the self-employed, our farmers and fishers, among others, and indeed all directly affected by the crisis. Our package of assistance is nearly $120 million. This represents the largest assistance package announced by any government in our region to date. March 25th at 11:59 p.m., the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis will be closing its borders to all commercial airline flights until April 7, 2020. We have already announced an additional $16.9 million investment in our health system. Recall this is in addition to the $62 million we have allocated already to the health sector in our 2020 budget. There will be the postponement of the payment of property taxes for the period June to September 2020. The removal of VAT and import duty for a 6-month period on the following additional hygiene items: hand sanitizers, hand sanitizer dispensing machines, disinfecting wipes, rubbing alcohol, gloves, masks, and protective gowns. The removal of import duty and customs service charge for 6 months on the following: vegetables, fruits, fruit juices, cough and cold preparations, and vitamins. A waiver of payment for consumption of water for the period April to June 2020 for individuals who have been laid off by businesses or experience a reduction in earnings as a consequence of the COVID-19. A reduction of the corporate income tax rate from 33% to 25% for the period April to June 2020 for businesses that retain at least 75% of their employees. There will be the reduction of unincorporated business tax. The rate will move 50% downwards from 4% to 2% for the period April to June 2020. We will inject $10 million to boost the production of agriculture and to ensure greater food security. A waiver of payments for the consumption of water by farmers for 6 months, April to September 2020. There will be the provision of an additional $5 million support to the Poverty Alleviation Program in the first instance. The Social Security Board in this regard will establish a special fund of about $15 million to assist with income support up to a maximum of $1,000 per month for workers whose income would have been impacted by COVID-19. Registered self-employed persons who can show that they have been impacted would also qualify for this support. There will be the provision of additional resource in the region of $12 million to capitalize the severance payment fund. The Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis will facilitate a loan repayment moratorium for a 6-month period and the waiver of all applicable late fees and charges to support their customers who are impacted by the loss of income due to COVID-19. The National Housing Corporation will also implement a moratorium on mortgages for an initial period of 3 months in the first instance. We expect that a more extensive program of support will shortly be finalized by the board. The St. Kitts Electricity Company, SCELEC, and the Nevis Electricity Company, NEVLEC, would implement a moratorium on payments for electricity services for affected businesses and individuals for a 3-month period, April to June, in the first instance. There will be fresh sums invested in the popular Fresh Start program to assist the poor and marginalized youths by providing access to capital to fund small and medium-sized business projects. $5 million will be provided in this regard. We will provide funding through the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis for mortgage loans to our citizens in the amount of $30 million. I am advised that the first tranche of this amount has already been made available. The government will reprioritize and accelerate the pace of implementation of approved capital projects that could have a direct positive impact on the economy. In my view, now is the time for all men and women of goodwill to come together and to move forward as one people in one federation. My advice then, let's stay together, because together as a people, we shall see this one through.
Over the coming weeks, the Leadership Matters virtual forum series will focus on the big stories and issues in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and it will also show how leadership in practice is helping to transform the nation and people's lives. One such big story is the approximately $120 million COVID-19 stimulus package, which is providing much-needed relief to help support families, businesses, and workers who have been impacted by the economic downturn caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Many of you probably remember that this generous stimulus package was launched the same day that Leadership Matters debuted its very first episode on Tuesday, March 24th. Tonight on Leadership Matters, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, who is Minister of Finance, will discuss the implementation of the relief package, which happens to be the largest COVID-19 stimulus plan mounted by a Caribbean government. Joining the Prime Minister are the Financial Secretary in the Government of St. Kitts and Nevis, Mrs. Hilary Hazel, Deputy Financial Secretary, Mrs. Sylvia Manning-Gums, and CEO of Social Security in St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. Antonio Maynard. Highlights of St. Kitts and Nevis's COVID-19 stimulus plan include an additional $5 million being allocated to support the Poverty Alleviation Program out of the recognition that due to the economic downturn, some household incomes have fallen below $3,000 per month. Water bill payments between April and June have been waived for people who are financially impacted by COVID-19 due to layoffs or reductions in earnings. Social Security has instituted a $15 million emergency relief fund, providing up to $1,000 to persons who have been adversely affected by the pandemic and covering the months of April, May, and June in the first instance. The government is assisting farmers with financial grants, free seeds and seedlings, and it has also set aside additional lands to be dedicated to food production. Water consumption payments by farmers have also been waived for April to September 2020. The stimulus package also introduced a tax incentive for businesses that retain at least 75% of their employees. So they have seen a reduction in the corporate income tax rate from 33% to 25% for April to June 2020. Under the stimulus package, there is also a 50% reduction in the unincorporated business tax rate from 4% to 2% for the period April to June 2020. This is by no means an exhaustive list of what the relief package entails, so I invite you to go to www.covid19stimulus.gov.kn tomorrow to check it out. Indeed, the relief measures are sweeping and wide-ranging. For instance, the banking, mortgage, and utility companies have stepped up to ease the repercussions of the pandemic. For instance, the Development Bank established a 6-month loan repayment moratorium for people impacted by the loss of income. Notably, this is something that is being done by all member banks in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Also, the electricity companies on both St. Kitts and Nevis, Skelec and Nevlec have implemented a 3-month moratorium on payments from April to June for affected businesses and individuals. And the National Housing Corporation also applied a 3-month moratorium in the first instance on mortgage payments by affected homeowners. I've tried to set the scene tonight, and I now call on Prime Minister Harris, who will paint the canvas, so to speak, as he updates us on the implementation of the coronavirus stimulus relief package.
Thank you very much, Valencia, our press secretary. I want firstly to extend greetings to my fellow citizens and residents, and indeed to all who are listening through Radioland and TVland and through any of the social media platform. Tonight we continue our conversation about the safer and stronger future, which we promise to deliver during the second term of our Team Unity administration. The weight of this commitment lies on my shoulders, and I remain strong in the view that should we adopt an all-of-society approach, we can stabilize our economy and have it back on the path of growth, job creation, and expansion of opportunities for our farmers, our fishers, our young people, indeed for their mothers and fathers too. It is my wish that we put every able-bodied person into productive and constructive engagement. St. Kitts and Nevis has been fortunate over the last 5 years to have benefited from strong and effective leadership, which has led to consistent growth year after year, record levels of surpluses, allowing the payment of double salaries by the federal administration, both to our own employees and to those on the Nevis Island administration's payroll 4 years in a row. We have seen over the last 5 years record number of business licenses being issued, a record number of loans to small businesses as a result of our Fresh Start loan program, record number of housing solutions being offered to our people. Indeed, some 4,000 plus housing solutions have been made available to our people. Through the NHC, some 400 housing solutions. The help program provided support to 400 families, and the first-time mortgage program assisted 565 persons. Our hurricane relief response has benefited over 3,233 families. Social Security data reflects the positive impact of this era of economic growth and fiscal surpluses. The record will show that in 2014, there were 26,958 contributors. By 2019, that had grown tremendously to 29,986 contributors, an increase of over 3,028 contributors over the 26,958 contributors we inherited in 2014. The number of employees grew from 27,600 in 2014 to a best ever record at the end of 2019 at an average of 29,160 persons. The self-employed data reflect that the contributors there grew from 982 in 2014 to 1,374 in 2018. Total wages, which stood at $790 million in 2014, would reach the billion-dollar mark under my leadership in 2018, the highest record of earnings in the Federation. In sum, the growing economy on the team Unity reached people, real people, in the alleyways and the byways, in the rural communities, in Bastia, in Charlestown. We presided over inclusive growth. More persons benefited from jobs, from self-employment, and more opportunities were available to our people. More money was also being paid out to people than ever before. When COVID-19 began waging its war of dislocation against the world in 2019 and in St. Kitts and Nevis by the first quarter of 2020, we were very strong as a nation. We had the best fiscal position compared to any country in the region. Our fiscal balance was about 9% of our GDP, while Grenada was next behind, somewhere at 5%, and we had close to over 30,000 persons on record. COVID-19 came with its turmoil, undermining our economy. It shocked our society, and it caused us to rethink life and living. Thanks to the brilliance and patriotism of our health experts, we have weathered the first bout of COVID-19. No deaths, no admissions, and those who have been tested positive have recovered nicely. COVID-19, of course, started as a health pandemic, and it has now morphed into an economic recession with huge consequences of unemployment, poverty, social retrogression, and the reversal of growth around the world. The latest World Economic Outlook put out by the IMF for June 2020 reveals the following. The world output, which stood at 2.9% of GDP in 2019, is now being projected at 4.9% negative in 2020. The largest and most powerful economy, United States, recorded growth of 2.3% in 2019. In 2020, growth is projected to decline by a massive 8%. For the euro area, growth in 2019 was recorded at 1.3%. For 2020, it is estimated that growth will fall by a massive 10.2%. United Kingdom recorded growth of 1.4% in 2019, and in 2020, the growth is projected at negative 10.2%. Canada recorded growth at 1.7% in 2019. For 2020, it is expected to record negative growth of 8.4%. Latin America and the Caribbean, at near nil growth in 2019, is projected for 2020 to experience negative 9.4% growth. So the story is the same, that COVID-19 basically has challenged and destabilized all economies. Across all geographical economic classifications of advanced economies, emerging markets, and developing economies with its subregions of emerging and developing Asia, emerging and developing Europe, Latin America and the Caribbean, the Middle East and Central Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, low-income and developing countries. I promise to lead our people of St. Kitts and Nevis to the Canaan land, the metaphor for a better place post-COVID-19. Tonight we will be focusing our thoughts on our own realities, but more so on our future, how we make it to the stronger future. We will bring an institutional and people response to the crisis. Our government, our parliament, and our people are all that we have at this time. To contain the destabilizing impact of COVID-19, we announced the largest and the most comprehensive response on a per capita basis to COVID-19. To mitigate the impact on our people, we announced a $1,000 grant by Social Security. The $500 PAP program was to be extended. We waived water charges for 3 months in the first instance. We instituted a moratorium on electricity bills for 3 months, a moratorium on mortgage payments for 6 months. Indeed, we put the people first, and in particular, those most severely hit by COVID-19. To mitigate the impact on our institutions, and in particular, our institutions of business, we announced a reduction of corporation tax from 33% to 25% over the pertinent period we are now considering. We announced further reduction in taxes and unincorporated business, a massive reduction of 50% from 4% to 2%. For the medium and long term, we said that we will reset and prioritize agriculture. By agriculture, we make reference to crops, livestock, and the fisheries sector in particular. And our interest then and now is on maintaining food security and indeed improving on it and enhancing the income flows to our farmers and fishers. Since that time, we can say that 135 acres of land have been made available from the 400 acres of land which we redeem from the land for debt swap arrangement. Our farmers have benefited from free batical treatment for the animals, the fencing of wires, seeds, and seedlings, and free harrowing services. We also announced that for the medium term, we would want to jumpstart construction, and in this regard, we made $30 million, or we pledged them, to support through those who are interested in home financing via the aegis of the Development Bank. We pledged then, way back in March the 24th, that we will provide support to small businesses via a Fresh Start program, with a tranche of $5 million. There are other areas which we are looking forward to help in the jump-starting of our economy. And these areas will include ICT, our CBI program, the financial services sector. All these we wish to become more effective as growth drivers, and they will be the subject of dialogue with critical stakeholders, including the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Indeed, before the onslaught of COVID, we had started that dialogue with the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the banking and financial stakeholders, and we will widen the consultations and discussions to involve the workers' movement in the near future. In terms of other institutional responses to the COVID-19, we are delighted that the Social Security has come on board. And tonight we are privileged to have the CEO of the Social Security Scheme, or the director, and he will answer questions on the constructive role the institution can and is playing in igniting activity going forward. Social Security has played a critical role in housing development and education support to the Development Bank and other institutions, and indeed it has over time supported the development of our economic infrastructure. The second cruise pair come quickly to mind, as would other projects on the island of Nevis and on the island of St. Kitts. We now need Social Security to be part of a new sizable resource mobilization program to get our economy back to work again. Indeed, it is my view that we must again reimagine the role of socioeconomic institutions in the task of nation building by our people. We must not continue to expect others to do for us what we must now do for ourselves. In this regard, again, I want to recognize that the Development Bank has played a constructive role in education, being the largest provider of student loans in our country. It has filled the void in housing and in small business support. Our commercial banking sector is a critical part of the institutional response which we must make in the near future. Indeed, in the past, the inflexibility of foreign commercial banks and their risk aversion to nation building paved the way for indigenous banks and financial institutions to come forward. New policy prescriptions are required to consolidate them as genuine development partners. We are grateful nonetheless that the commercial banks supported the recommendation from the Monetary Council through the ECCB to grant a 6-month moratorium on all mortgages. I am advised that there were 2,531 beneficiaries of the deferral relief or moratorium program across member institutions. This is significant. Over 2,531 persons benefited in having their mortgage payments deferred. I am further advised that deferrals were provided collectively on over $258 million in mortgages. So this, of course, has been a significant relief. Turning to the manufacturing sector, which has always been an interesting part of the socioeconomic activity in St. Kitts and Nevis. One would recall that St. Kitts and Nevis is the largest exporter of manufacturing products from the OECS and Barbados, and that reality has been in existence for a very long time. I am pleased to report that our manufacturing sector and our enclave manufacturing sector in particular is making steady progress in putting our people back to work. Since COVID-19 and the closure of a number of our factories, all 7 major export manufacturers are now back in business. 720 employees are back to work out of a total of 982. That is 73% of manufacturing workers are out to work. We expect by October, more workers will be back on the job as the employers satisfy the protocols established by our National Emergency Operating Center, or the NEOC. I want just very briefly to look at some of the data that has been made available to me by the NEOC with respect to the situation pertaining to the critical or the largest manufacturing employers in St. Kitts and Nevis. Jaro Electronics, the manufacturing sector, had a total staff of 300, of which 156 already at work. Jaro is currently operating one shift. Cajola Cristado has a total pool of 205 employees. The number currently working stands at 158. 47 of its employees are at home. Cajola Cristado is operating two shifts. API Harrow Server has 225 employees, or had at the time of COVID-19. Presently, 183 of them are back to work. Harrow Server is operating one shift. The Carib Brewery has an employee base of 140 persons. To date, 135 are now back on the job. Electrofab had 69, 45 of whom are back to work, and Electrofab Limited is operating one shift. St. Kitts Brushes had 35 employees, 35 are back to work. And we have the Marara Distillers engaged in manufacturing. My understanding is that it has 8 employees, 8 are out to work. We expect that after certain repairs and renovation work, Jaro will be back to near full capacity. More persons at work makes it better for our economy, better for our families, indeed better for all of us. I want to make it clear that the workers have returned under new protocols at the workplace. And by and large, the protocols would require that there be enhancement in terms of sanitation, respect and compliance with social distancing rules, new arrangements for lunch and for gathering at the workplaces. We have been able to do all of this in an orderly way and to get our people back to work. I think this speaks well to our people, our workforce, and to the high quality of engagement and response from the National Emergency Operation Center. Of course, some of the workers who have underlying conditions by the rules would be required to work from home. And so the at-home statistics would reflect some of that element. The other sector which I want to look at briefly is the agriculture sector. And I can report that to date, we have spent just about $5 million on fisheries, crops, and livestock subsectors under the rubric of agriculture. We have harrowed over 120 acres of land, fenced many farms, provided seeds and seedlings free of cost to over 90 farmers. Over 900 trays of sweet peppers have been provided free of cost to farmers, 96 trays of melons, and 192 trays of squash have been distributed to farmers. Our fishers have and will continue to receive fishing wire hooks, ropes, fish traps, fishing line, and safety equipment. In sum, therefore, since we have unveiled our stimulus package, we have in fact had the benefit of nigh over $80 million of that amount already expended through the government and the various public sector entities that have been part and parcel of this process. We have excluded from that computation the significant number of persons who would have benefited from moratorium arrangements. Tonight, I want to again bid special welcome to the three other panelists who have joined me and will provide further information and insights and be available to address the questions as they come. Our Financial Secretary, Mrs. Hilary Hazel, our Deputy Financial Secretary, Mrs. Sylvia Manning-Gums, and the Director of Social Security, Antonia Maynard. I bid them welcome and again say thank you to all those who are viewing this program. I hope, as all programs have been, this one will be quite informative. You will learn a lot about what is happening in our country, and you will be able to make informed decisions. It has been a singular honor for me to serve St. Kitts and Nevis as the third Prime Minister, and I continue to pledge that I will do all that is humanly possible to advance the just cause, to advance progress, and to advance development in St. Kitts and Nevis. My aim and my desire is to make our beloved country the model of the best managed small island state in the world. Working together in the all-of-society approach, which have proven so effective and efficacious in the outcome in our fight against COVID-19, I am encouraged that we can. We can make it to the Canaan land, and we certainly can, working together, make St. Kitts and Nevis our Garden of Eden, welcoming those who would wish to come, to be part of a country that represents the best place to live, the best place to raise family, and the best place for people to come together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, for such an important update. When we come back from a short commercial break, the Financial Secretary will deliver her opening remarks, followed by the Social Security CEO. The Deputy Financial Secretary is on hand to answer your questions along with the other panelists. Speaking of questions, I'd like to give you the numbers to phone. They are 1-869-466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and 1-239-645-4500. Questions can also be sent via WhatsApp to 869-661-5683. We'll be back.
There will be the postponement of the payment of property taxes for the period June to September 2020. There will be fresh sums invested in the popular Fresh Start program to assist the poor and marginalized youths by providing access to capital to fund small and medium-sized business projects. $5 million will be provided in this regard.
I am Officer Donnelly Liebert Shiverton. Do you want to travel and don't have private transportation? Here are some travel safety tips to keep yourself and the persons around you safe from the coronavirus. When venturing out in public, it is recommended that you wear a mask at all times. Sanitize your hands before and after entering public transportation. The bus operators are also encouraged to sanitize their buses after each trip. Remember, always practice good respiratory hygiene. That means refraining from touching your face with unwashed hands. Always practice physical distancing. To maintain physical distance, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis stipulates that only 2 passengers are allowed per row. That is, 1 passenger on each end of the bus row, while 1 passenger is allowed to sit up front with the driver. This means that only 9 passengers are allowed in a passenger bus. Remember, stay safe, travel wisely as we work together to flatten the curve.
Protect yourself from the novel coronavirus. Wash your hands thoroughly and frequently for at least 20 seconds each time. Avoid shaking hands and touching your face with unclean hands. If you have to cough or sneeze, do so into your flexed elbow or a paper towel and then dispose of it. Keep a distance of 3 feet away from anyone with the cold or flu-like symptoms. Boost your immune system with vitamins, drink plenty of water, and get adequate rest. Visit your doctor, the nearest hospital, or health center if you or a family member becomes ill. A message from the Ministry of Health and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA.
Before touching the mask, clean hands with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. Take the mask and inspect it for tears or holes. Orient which side is the top side, where the metal strip is. Ensure the proper side of the mask faces outwards, the colored side. Place the mask to your face. Pinch the metal strip or stiff edge of the mask so it molds to the shape of your nose. Pull down the mask's bottom so it covers your mouth and your chin. After use, take off the mask. Remove the elastic loops from behind the ears while keeping the mask away from your face and clothes. To avoid touching potentially contaminated surfaces of the mask, discard the mask in a closed bin immediately after use.
To phone again, they are area code 869-466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and our overseas line is 239-645-4500. Questions can also be sent via WhatsApp to 661-5683. We will go right to the Financial Secretary, Mrs. Hilary Hazel, now for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Valencia. Honorable Prime Minister, fellow panelists, listening and viewing audience of tonight's Leadership Matters session, a pleasant good night. Currently, we have a situation globally and in the Federation where uncertainty dominates the economic landscape. But tonight, for my brief remarks, introductory remarks, I would like to concentrate on some thoughts coming from the Ministry of Finance in respect of economic recovery and transformation. Currently, there are two viewpoints that are being shared in terms of the trajectory of the global recovery. And we find these to be very instructive for the Twin Island Federation, where there is an optimistic viewpoint and a pessimistic viewpoint. Under the optimistic viewpoint, we see that the recovery may take the form of a deep recession followed by a quick recovery after the lockdown has been eased. In the pessimistic view, we see the possibility of a deep contraction, and then we have an uptick resembling a recovery, and then we see a contraction again before we can return to normal. From the Ministry of Finance, we are hoping that the situation in St. Kitts and Nevis will be along the pathway to follow the optimistic view. And so the pathway to our recovery, we believe, would rest heavily on the ability of the country, the government, businesses, and households to coexist with COVID-19. How soon will we be able to open our borders and the capacity to jumpstart the 2020 to 2021 tourism season are also critical issues for consideration. The path to recovery, we believe, must include the measures to tackle fiscal stabilization, stimulating economic growth, economic transformation, and maintaining an adequate social safety net system that is targeted at the most vulnerable members of our society. We believe that the areas for fiscal stabilization should include considerations for reprioritizing our capital expenditure, especially to reorient them to impact on the economy. We also would look at increased coordination between the allied ministries and other entities in the public sector to ensure delivery of services to our needy families and households. That is, to help strengthen the social safety net programs that are indeed being delivered by the government. In terms of the areas for economic recovery, we believe that the crisis offers a good opportunity to accelerate reforms for transforming our economy to a more competitive, productive, and resilient economy. We have to be focused on accelerating the pace of implementing reforms to support the building of a climate-resilient economy. I know that the focus currently is in terms of responding to COVID, but we are not so distant in our memory for us to remember that we are living in a zone where quite easily our successes can also be challenged by natural hazard and weather events. And so focus must remain on building resilience in the economy as it relates to the whole idea of mitigating against natural disasters. We have also to focus on implementing reforms that are necessary to accelerate economic transformation. And part of the government's strategy for achieving this would be to focus very sharply and on adopting a pro-growth approach to the development of the capital program for the 2021 budget. We are also looking at, as you've heard from Prime Minister earlier, leveraging the platinum brand of the CBI program, where we are hoping to introduce new CBI products and also some legislative reforms to help drive CBI business. We have to focus on our human resource capacity and develop our people so that they are able to help with the accelerate the transformation process. Our people are our most important resource, and so therefore we cannot see a pathway towards recovery and transformation of our economic situation without our people. In terms of the way forward as well, the government has instituted over time a healthy agenda for legislative reforms. These would need to be continued in order for us to achieve our goal, and as the Prime Minister puts it, our promised land. The digital transformation is another core element of the pathway forward. And so, given these broad areas, we expect to see focus and clear emphasis on driving construction, building out our potential for agriculture. We have the whole issue of transforming the economy through the introduction of cannabis-related businesses, adopting renewable energy, as well as a laser-like focus on building the financial services sector. It is clear for us that there are many measures that the government would have to implement. The government cannot do it alone. And so the private sector would be an important player that we would need to partner with the public sector to ensure that we are able to make the sort of inroads that we would need to make in terms of the recovery of our economy. Additionally, we believe that it is possible to identify and agree on the main initiatives to be implemented over the short term, medium term, and the long term. We have to ensure that St. Kitts and Nevis rebounds from this episode of contraction in economic activity. We are in a good position to ensure that our economy comes roaring back to a move ahead with our transformation to the benefit of all our citizens and residents. Those would be my opening remarks for this evening.
Thank you very much, Financial Secretary, for your incisive analysis. We will go to Mr. Antonio Maynard, the CEO for Social Security. But before I do, I'm going to repeat the numbers again, because I know that a lot of you have questions, which the panelists are here to answer. So you can call 466-2666, 662-8674, 767-4765, and if you want to get in from overseas, please call 239-645-4500. And I am told that we already have some WhatsApp questions. You can send your WhatsApps to 5683. I now invite Mr. Antonio Maynard to deliver his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady, and good night to everyone. Let me acknowledge our distinguished Prime Minister, and let me also thank him for this timely invitation on this very prestigious program in order to give the general public some insights and updates on the Social Security Relief Fund payments. Management were given a mandate from the Board of Directors to pay up to $1,000 per month for 3 months in the first instance to each employee, including self-employed persons who have been laid off or became unemployed as a result of the impact of COVID-19. In managing this process, we received a total of over 8,000 applications for employees through the Department of Labor for verification and processing, representing a total of 849 employers as at the 15th of June 2020, while another 1,568 self-employed applications were submitted to the Social Security head office directly for processing and payments. It is also important to note that our compliance department discovered over 2,000 duplicated applications apart from what were actually processed. With respect to the payments began on the 20th of April as promised, with continuous and daily uploads to the various bank accounts and dispatching of checks. For the month of April, we paid 7,827 persons, amounting to approximately $7.5 million. For the month of May, we paid 6,575 persons, amounting to some $6.4 million. And for the month of June, we are expected to pay approximately 5,781 persons. It is important to note also that we have factored in about 1,600 persons who have not been paid for April or May as yet, which will bring the total payout for June at around $7.6 million, with a grand total payout of approximately $22 million. The Minister of Social Security, the new Minister of Social Security, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, in his communication dated the 26th of June 2020, has authorized an additional payment of $7 million to be made to the COVID-19 Relief Fund, in addition to the $15 million that was approved before. Subsequent to this correspondence, the Board of Directors at its meeting on the 30th of June, that was earlier today, approved same. We are therefore pleased to proceed with the payments due and payable not exceeding the sum of $22 million EC. I am also pleased to announce that payments for the month of June will now become available from this evening and tomorrow down to Friday of this week. I just want to say that Social Security, as I said before, is all about people, it's all about the economy, it's all about employment and the livelihood and well-being of workers. And so the custodians of Social Security Fund continues to play a key role in mitigating against this crisis. And not only on St. Kitts, Our counterparts in the Caribbean are making similar emergency relief stimulus interventions from their reserves, suffice it to say, none as impressive as ours. It is also important to note that this is not a regular benefit payment, but instead a gratuitous intervention, a relief emergency payment, if you wish, to assist affected persons in this economic crisis that we are facing, in this pandemic situation. The decision by the Social Security Board to pay these COVID-19 relief funds is fully legal and in good and proper order. These funds are not paid under the usual benefits legislation, but instead it is considered as a grant disbursement to our insured persons. I have, of course, a lot more to say, but I will stay here for now. Ms. Moderator, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maynard, for providing us with almost real-time information, very valuable information, and I'm sure a lot of people were very glad to hear from you. We will go to a commercial break, but before we do, I'd like to list out the numbers again: 466-2666. 662-8674, 767-4765, and our overseas line is 239-645-4500. Questions can also be sent via WhatsApp to 869-661-5683. And I see about 5 questions that have already come in via WhatsApp. We'll go take a quick commercial break and we'll be back.
There will be fresh sums invested in the popular Fresh Start program to assist the poor and marginalized youths by providing access to capital to fund small and medium-sized business projects. $5 million will be provided in this regard.
I am Officer Donnelly Liebert Shiverton. Do you want to travel and don't have private transportation? Here are some travel safety tips to keep yourself and the persons around you safe from the coronavirus. When venturing out in public, it is recommended that you wear a mask at all times. Sanitize your hands before and after entering public transportation. The bus operators are also encouraged to sanitize their buses after each trip. Remember, always practice good respiratory hygiene. That means refraining from touching your face with unwashed hands. Always practice physical distancing. To maintain physical distance, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis stipulates that only 2 passengers are allowed per row. That is, 1 passenger on each end of the bus row, while 1 passenger is allowed to sit up front with the driver. This means that only 9 passengers are allowed in a passenger bus. Remember, stay safe, travel wisely as we work together to flatten the curve.
Protect yourself from the novel coronavirus. Wash your hands thoroughly and frequently for at least 20 seconds each time. Avoid shaking hands and touching your face with unclean hands. If you have to cough or sneeze, do so into your flexed elbow or a paper towel and then dispose of it. Keep a distance of 3 feet away from anyone with the cold or flu-like symptoms. Boost your immune system with vitamins, drink plenty of water, and get adequate rest. Visit your doctor, the nearest hospital, or health center if you or a family member becomes ill. A message from the Ministry of Health and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA.
There will be the postponement of the payment of property taxes for the period June to September 2020.
Before touching the mask, clean hands with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. Take the mask and inspect it for tears or holes. Orient which side is the top side, where the metal strip is. Ensure the proper side of the mask faces outwards, the colored side. Place the mask to your face. Pinch the metal strip or stiff edge of the mask so it molds to the shape of your nose. Pull down the mask's bottom so it covers your mouth and your chin. After use, take off the mask. Remove the elastic loops from behind the ears while keeping the mask away from your face and clothes. To avoid touching potentially contaminated surfaces of the mask, discard the mask in a closed bin immediately after use.
Welcome back to Leadership Matters. We'll go right to the phone lines. Good evening, caller.
Good evening to the Honorable Prime Minister. Hello?
Good evening, you're on the air.
Good evening.
Good evening, you're on the air.
Yeah, good evening to the Honorable Prime Minister. And good evening to Mr. Director, Mr. Maynard, my good friend.
Good evening, sir.
And good evening to the Financial Secretary there.
Good evening.
Now, Mr. Prime Minister, I want to commend you and your team, especially under this COVID-19 pandemic. I know it was difficult for you to do what you do, especially with workers out of job, and you put a stimulus package in place to please those who out of a job. And you hear all kind of negative talk out there about this stimulus package because you make some comments about like different countries who cannot afford to do like what you do. And I don't see nothing wrong with that, Mr. Prime Minister, because it was just relating on towards your leadership of the country and your management and the affairs of your government, and you were just saying that. And there's people out there negative want to cause all kind of things, bringing all kind of fake news, saying all kind of negative things, Mr. Prime Minister. And me, Mr. Politics, I behind this government unity 100%. And you as the leader of this federation, I think it's a need. I don't care what nobody say. And I just want the people of this federation not to listen to the fake news, because there's a lot of fake news out there saying all kind of negative things on social media, sending it to me. I am so equipped with the social media business. But all kind of things sometimes they send to me, and you got some people that take on these things and run with it and feel like something like that goes on. But this is our little country. And if a government like this, with a situation with the pandemic, now we got hurricane coming up. We don't know the situation at all, how deadly this hurricane will be and to affect our country. And before so we pray for this nation because of the political bitterness. People saying all kind of negative things about the country and trying to destabilize the government with all this fake news, especially some of these journalists we got out there. But Mr. Prime Minister, I know you're back broad and you're strong, and I know that you and your cabinet will continue to listen to the people because that is what we want, and do what you all got to do for the Federation of Pinkerton Nevis.
Also, we're going to go to the phone lines. Thanks. Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please. You're live on Leadership Matters.
Baghdad Media. First, I want to say good night to our Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, Anthony Maynard, Director of Social Security and the Financial Secretary of Ministry of Finance. Now, Prime Minister, I don't think that much media is really showcasing or highlighting for you keeping us safe during this COVID-19. And I am, for one, personally happy the steps you continue to take and your government in protecting us. Think it continue to lead in so many different things. And you can boast that with this COVID-19 pandemic, because of what you have done, your task force, your CMO, you have put in place, keep us safe. We almost like we are COVID-free. You know, we could walk about now, we still wearing our mask, but you keep us safe. And I want to commend you on that and tell you to keep up the good work and continue to keeping us safe. Now, Mr. Maynard, I heard you said that from this evening, postals will be receiving their funds up to $1,000 down until Friday. And that is good, because the last time I spoke to our PM, he said that they will meet to discuss to see the way forward if the stimulus package would continue or can continue, if there's any changes that they would make, needs to be made so that persons can continue to benefit. Many persons are not coming forth and saying that they are receiving that monthly payment. You know, I've seen videos circulating of persons saying they are happy that Team Unity have put this stimulus package so they can continue receiving this fund that is so needed during this crisis. And for the Finance Secretary, you keep doing a good work and you keep doing those fingers. You have a good man there, the PM, and both of you are together, no good finance. So keep up the good work. I'll currently listen and to see and hear the way forward in Team Unity keeping us safe.
Very much, caller. I'm going to implore that the remaining callers be brief, please. We will stick to about 1 minute per call because we have about 5 callers lined up. So I'm going to go straight to the next call. Thank you. Good evening. You're live on Leadership Matters.
Hi, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Go ahead, please. You're live.
Okay, good evening. My name is Austin Coker. Mr. PM and Mr. Maynard, I need you all to do me a favor. I know a lot of folks are going to be mad with me, but I don't care. Let me repeat this. I don't care. A lot of persons want to take out of Social Security and they don't want to pay into Social Security. For example, busmen and some taxi drivers, some young entrepreneurs, they don't want to pay Social Security. Mr. Maynard, I am saying to you and to the Prime Minister, whenever we get over this COVID-19 business, make every jackman who is employer, self-employed, pay Social Security so that when things like these happen, then they can have an argument. But they want to argue for money and they want to pay no money to the country. Put something in place, for example, with the taxi drivers. Put something in place that when they're going to pay for the taxi license, they pay $1,000. It cover the taxi license and it cover the Social Security for 1 long year. And then when things happen, they could come back to you, Mr. Maynard, because they paid it already. Have a good night.
Sir. Good night, caller. Hello?
Yeah, good night.
Good.
Yeah, good night, Mr. Prime Minister and your guests. I just want to congratulate you on your good victory you had just 2 weeks ago. And I continue to say, stay strong, stay peaceful, love your people, don't be ungrateful to them, and everything will be all right for your government and the people of St. Kitts. Don't waste time with the loser down in St. Paul. He was calling for the election all the time, up and down ringing a cowbell in town. Now the election comes, he find all kind of irregularity to go to the court. He just holding strain. Don't bother with him. Continue, you and your cabinet, continue to look out for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and do your best you could. So God bless you and good night.
Okay, thank you. We will pause the phone calls and let our panelists respond. Before we continue though, our WhatsApp is being inundated with questions, and so we're glad that you have your questions, and we're very happy to accommodate you. We will be giving preference to callers, so what I will do, definitely tomorrow, I will follow up with the WhatsApps. If we can't get to all of them tonight, we will definitely make an attempt to follow up with the WhatsApps, as well as Mr. Maynard and his team. Thank you so much. We will definitely get back to you if we can't accommodate all of you, because I'm seeing quite a lot. Okay, so I will turn it over to the panelists to give some responses. Or just comments.
Very, very quickly, I want to thank the callers, and we certainly will attempt to take as many of the calls and to provide responses to them tonight. I want to thank Mr. Politics for calling in and for sharing his views regarding what is happening in the country and how the country stands with respect to the rest of the world. The comparisons we make, and we will continue to make, are relevant comparisons. St. Kitts and Nevis does not operate in isolation to the rest of the world. And as we attempt to analyze what is happening, it is always helpful that our people take stock of what is happening elsewhere. Our successes, for example, in the fight of COVID-19, stand in stark contrast to what is happening in the United States of America. And to make reference to that is just a reference to the facts. The facts are independent of either of us. And while we are entitled to our opinion, the truth is we are not entitled to the facts. So the facts speaks for themselves. The fact speaks to the fact that St. Kitts and Nevis has done remarkably well in contrast to its peers, not just in the region, but around the world. The fact speaks to the reality that St. Kitts and Nevis, when COVID struck, was basically the best fiscally prepared country within the region. And the facts will speak to that in the near future. The fact of that reality is also borne out by the statistics we recorded from the Social Security Board, how our fiscal management had redounded to the benefit of our people, reflected in the largest number of persons employed in our federation, in the highest level of earnings being paid in our country over the last 10 years. Those are the reality that we had led not just growth, but a people-centered growth. I agree with Mr. Politics that we have to be aware of the fake news and the fake reporting by reporters who have a clear political bias. We know the reality, and I am not concerned about the fake news at this time. We have gone through the season of fake news, and we won an election. And my challenge and my opportunity now is to continue to manage the country of St. Kitts and Nevis in such a way that when the time comes again for the people to show their preferences, there will be a distinct preference by the people of St. Kitts and Nevis for a team unity administration, which I have been leading over the past 5 years. The last elections reflected well that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis can discern the fake news from the reality. Again, I want to commend Bucky Gottit for his contribution and for recognizing how well we are doing in keeping the people safe. I want to commend the people, though, for understanding that this is an important moment in time and moment in history, and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis cannot let down their guard in the fight against COVID-19. Wherever it has gone in every region, it has left a trail of death, a trail of thousands of people around the world hospitalized and in pain, and millions of persons, over 30 million people around the world, have been displaced as a result of this. So that basically is a dreaded virus, and we have to be careful, and we have to be as guarded as we have been in the past so that we may consecrate the future. I want to say thank you to Rock for his congratulatory remarks, and certainly I will always be strong with the help of God, and the love for my people have no bounds or border. So thank you for that.
Prime Minister, please pardon me for interrupting you. There is an overseas caller on the line, so we're happy to get to you. Good night. Hello, good night. You're live on Leadership Matters. Okay, caller, you're welcome to call back again. Area code 239-645-4500. We're waiting for you to call again. We're happy to get your calls. Sure.
In relation to Social Security.
Mr. Maynard, go ahead, please.
With respect to the comments from Bucky Goddard, I would just like to say that we are fulfilling our obligation to pay for 3 months in the first instance. And as you notice, we have increased the amount to $7 million, up to a maximum of $22 million now. Originally, it was $15 million. So, as I said before, payments for June will now become available from tomorrow through Friday for self-employed persons and the other employees, some 5,000 persons. Mr. Coker made a very important point. We have seen an increase in the registration of self-employed persons over the past 3 months. Suffice it to say, some of them wanted to be paid, but couldn't be paid because they registered a bit too late. But we are continuing to encourage them to register with Social Security, because something like this pandemic can happen again very, very soon. Come into the offices and register. And it is not a lot of money per week to get you secured and insured at Social Security. So I want to encourage registration, self-employed, the bus drivers in particular. Many of those bus drivers, some of them have come to ask, but they couldn't be qualified, they couldn't be eligible because they were not registered as self-employed persons. But they since have registered, now they are insured, and any other pandemic such as this one, they will be benefiting accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm getting word from an overseas caller. He's WhatsApping me, telling me there's no answer on the overseas line. Mailbox is full. So we're going to take a quick commercial break to reset and come back. I will give the phone numbers again. So please, when we come back, we will go straight to the phone lines. So please take down these numbers: 466-2666. That's 466-2666, 662-8674, 662-8674, 767-4765, and our overseas line is 239-645-4500. We'll take a quick commercial break. Thank you for watching.
Before touching the mask, clean hands with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. Take the mask and inspect it for tears or holes. Orient which side is the top side where the metal strip is. Ensure the proper side of the mask faces outwards. the colored side. Place the mask to your face. Pinch the metal strip or stiff edge of the mask so it molds to the shape of your nose. Pull down the mask's bottom so it covers your mouth and your chin. After use, take off the mask. Remove the elastic loops from behind the ears while keeping the mask away from your face and clothes. To avoid touching potentially contaminated surfaces of the mask, discard the mask in a closed bin immediately after use.
Good night again. Welcome to Leadership Matters. Welcome back. We're going straight to the phone lines. Good night.
Good night.
Yes, good night. Go ahead, sir.
Greetings to everyone. And Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to congratulate you and all the candidates who win and those who didn't win, my beloved brother. No, my brother. So, Prime Minister, I'd like to know when we're going to see a revolution in agriculture in the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis. And I'd like to know when we're going to see some economic activities in Constituency 6. And when that bank, Mr. Prime Minister, that we've been talking about for years now, Mr. Prime Minister, when we're going to see the bank rehabilitated, and bank, and Kansas Pasha is there. Man, it's like a wasteland. When we're going to see something done to Kansas Pasha? We need some activities in Constituency 6, Mr. Prime Minister. We've been out in the sun, rain, dew, everything from since the days of Bradshaw. People's Action Movement, NLP, did some work.
Thank you,
but
sir.
That's enough.
Thank you very much. I can hear the passion in your voice, and we will get to your questions. Oh, another caller, please. Hello, good night. You're on Leadership Matters.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I'm on.
Yes, sir, you are. Good night.
Yeah, this is Thomas Richards. I want to congratulate the Prime Minister and all your people on the panelists. Okay, my question is that now that they're working on the road, we have a problem in Newton Ground. We're down by the school. If they could put in a drain, so when the rain falls, it could dissipate the water. I have already talked to the Prime Minister concerning that already, so he should have an idea what I'm speaking about.
Thank you.
And
good night.
Good night.
My dear beloved Prime Minister and his panelists. I want to thank our government for what they've been doing. Our government is doing well. We have paid 22 million from Social Security. We have went back again and we paid the injection of $5 million to the agriculture. And we are better than them. We are better than the West. And the PM, when you go on the radio, talk as you like. We are better than them. We have done so much. You have kept us safe. You closed on the border and nobody dead. And I'm so happy. You are a God sent. Father Jesus, I beg you to protect my Prime Minister till the end of time. And the Lord be with you. Have a good night, safe journey home, and take care of yourself.
Thank you so much for your commendations. We have 6 callers on hold, so we're going to go straight back to back to back. Good night, caller.
Hi, good night, and how is everyone doing? I have a small concern. The Prime Minister mentioned monies that were put in development back from home ownership. I was wondering if the same way $30 million were put in development bank, if he could also make some of that funds available in national banks, at least to give persons flexibility to work with whichever bank they may choose to. And secondly, with respect to finance, I was wondering if there's a way that persons who own businesses could get their responses from the Ministry of Finance a little bit more timely, because sometimes response go to the Ministry of Finance for import duty concession, and because there are no, let's say, COVID scheme to get, let's say, their response is back a little bit more timely. It takes too long for small businesses to get that information from the Ministry of Finance with respect to their businesses. So I was wondering if Finance made their response a little bit timely to the Ministry of International Trade, so business can be a little bit more flexible. And those are my two concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, caller.
Good night.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, good night, Mr. PM and company. I was looking at Fox Business News today, and one of the talking heads was mentioning that the United States economy is not expected to recover until the fourth quarter of 2021. I know our tourism comes mainly from that quarter. Our GDP is affected to the tune of anywhere between 12 to 16% from tourism from North America and other places. You did mention that manufacturing is on the rebound as far as we are concerned. What about the other sources of revenue for the country? How are they doing since tourism can be expected to be on the decline for some considerable period of time? And is there any other consideration to attracting some of those factories out of China, since there appears to be some kind of coldness between China and the United States? I'll listen up here for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, caller. You're on Leadership Matters. Go ahead, please. Do we have another caller? Hello, good night. Okay, so we don't. So, okay, we will start answering some of the questions that were asked. So the first caller wanted to know he asked, when will we see a revolution in agriculture? The Prime Minister has made mention of a lot of the initiatives that have been put in place, the land being made available. 135 acres of land have been set aside, designated for production for farmers. And he also mentioned the seedlings and the different services that are being provided. But he can discuss that. The same caller wanted to know about economic activity in constituency number 6. He wants to know when he can expect to see that. He also referred to the National Bank coming back, the possibility of it reopening over there. And he also mentioned Keynes's pasture. Someone from Newton Ground mentioned a drainage issue, but perhaps we can follow up on that at some other point. Then another caller said that money has been put into the development bank for home ownership. Can money also be placed into National Bank, they're asking. Another caller mentioned concern about the timeliness of responses from the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade, for instance, with respect to import duty concessions and other inquiries that may come from small businesses. And the last caller mentioned the fact that the U.S. is saying that, well, analysts are saying that the U.S. economy might not recover, might not rebound until the the third quarter of 2021. The caller has expressed some concern that tourism might not, might not rebound as quickly as some people would like, given the situation that's happening around the globe. So what are the sources of revenue for the country? Do we have, basically, how are the other sectors doing? And he mentioned whether or not there's a possibility of attracting manufacturing business from China. So we'll go straight to the panel. We'll start with Prime Minister Harris.
Very quickly, in terms of the caller, you have given some of the responses with respect to our efforts to boost agriculture as a generator of employment, of income, and to boost significantly its contribution to gross domestic product. For a very long time, since sugar, the non-sugar agricultural sector has not played a significant role. When the sugar industry was closed in 2005, the greatest opportunity was provided for significant diversification, for significant development of crops, of livestock, and the fisheries sector. Regrettably, we lost a significant portion of time between then and now in really transforming the agricultural sector. The efforts we are making now to invest more will hopefully bear some fruits, and we have done a significant job in the last couple of months building and the platform before. The matter of National Bank taking its place in the rural community of Saddlers is one which has been on the agenda, and it is one that I have put before the board, and we had expected we would have had some action, and then COVID-19 came and put a pause with respect to that. The National Bank branch in Saddlers is significantly dilapidated, and what will be required now will be significant investment in building a modern branch in Saddlers. It is still my wish, as it is your wish, that that be done expeditiously. I believe once we have had some passing time to assess the impact of COVID-19 and the bank finances, we certainly can revisit this matter, but this matter shall not be allowed to die. In terms of economic activity, number 6, we want to diversify economic activity across the landscape of St. Kitts and Nevis. And in this regard, no region, indeed perhaps one should say, since you phrase it in that context, no constituency shall be left behind. In the just concluded general elections, we articulated through Kevin Ninky Williams a whole list of areas in which we will engage the people of number 6 and the country at large. Significant investments are to be made in the development of a brand new fisheries complex in Depe, and we shall advance that. We shall also advance opportunities for creating spaces for commercial and industrial activity in number 6. Our housing build-out shall impact that constituency in a significant way. And clearly, with the Ramada Hotel about to get started, hopefully in the not-too-distant future, we will see a significant boost in socio-economic activity in St. Christopher number 6. St. Christopher number 6 is also an important agricultural community, and we shall continue to invest in agriculture significantly in terms of the number of farmers that have been helped so far, a significant number of them. In terms of the geographical layout, hail from that particular region. The matter of the drainage problem at Newton Ground, which has been raised earlier, it is one which we shall refer, and I'm inviting you, Valencia, to take note of this and to refer this matter to the Public Works Department. There were some other issues. I will allow the Financial Secretary to deal with the matter of the speed, the efficiency with which matters which come to the Ministry of Finance as they relate in particular to small and medium-sized businesses are being addressed. The matter of the role of National Bank is a significant one vis-a-vis the Development Bank. Some of the issues that drive the choice of institution are related to the ease with which policy can be implemented. And Development Bank was created, and we should never forget the history of these institutions. Development Bank throughout the Caribbean were organized as instruments to facilitate better coordination of government policy initiative to sectors that had hitherto been underserved by existing financial institutions. And therefore, the ordinary regime of the financial institutions, a Royal Bank, a National Bank, they do not readily respond with the same agility and flexibility in terms of some of the initiatives that government will have to take. When we, for example, introduce a Fresh Start program, we can say to Development Bank, we want you to run this program, and we say that we do not want the interest rate to be higher than X%. It is difficult to give that kind of direction and guidance to commercial banks. They operate under a different set of paradigm, a different set of policy prescriptions. Development banks came out of that inflexibility in financial institution, governed largely by a profit motive, for a next set of institution to have priorities better aligned with the government to serve hitherto underserved entities in the community. And that is why, for example, in other jurisdictions, they have developed Agricultural Development Bank, because they recognize their agricultural sector is underserved and that it is very, very difficult for farmers to get loans. And you look at the banking portfolio of the commercial banks, tell me how much loans Royal Bank would have given to the agricultural sector, and National Bank, and Scotia Bank, now Republic Bank. The reality is that those institutions have not been as readily responsive to some of the dictates of nation building as a development bank would be. And the development banks throughout the region were created for that purpose, to insert into the economic life new entrants, new people who hitherto were not well served. We certainly will continue always to review government policy sensitive to the evolution of times and the evolution of interests in terms of the instruments that are being used to aid our policy development. I return to the Financial Secretary to address the other matter, a put to the Ministry of Finance directly, and to perhaps express a view with respect to tourism and the other areas of economic activity and economic growth that could, or revenue generating sectors of the economy. I would want, though, not to crowd out, but to say that our CBI program has been one of those programs and initiatives. While it has been slowed by COVID, it has retained some level of resilience, and we are heartened by it. In her own presentation, the Financial Secretary did identify this particular sector in one in which we shall infuse greater deliverables through, for example, bringing new products on stream, and secondly, too, by improving the legislative regime that protects the country's reputation, that protects those that are going to be investing in the program. But without further ado, I would ask Mrs. Hazel to give a view on those matters that had been put.
Honorable Prime Minister, I would start where you left off, to the caller who expressed the viewpoints about additional revenue streams coming to the government. Yes, the CBI program continues to be an important source of revenue for the government. We also can count on the efforts made by the government to keep the construction industry going. We also see prospects for the future in terms of ICTs and agriculture once we are able to turn around the actual production cycle in the sector. In terms of the comment on contraction in the U.S. economy, yes, we do rely heavily on our tourism product coming from the United States. However, we would prefer to be optimistic in that the forecast shared earlier coming from the United States as the viewpoint shared by the IMF in its most recent publication of the World Economic Outlook, we are guardedly optimistic that the U.S. economy would turn around in 2021. We saw that it is expected for the U.S. economy to grow by -8% this year. However, the prospects are positive for 2021 with a 4.8% growth rate being projected for the United States. And so, as I indicated, we remain guardedly optimistic that our tourism sector would also return to positive outlook. For the young lady who spoke about efficiency and turnaround time for small businesses, I would commit that for the majority of cases, the turnaround time is efficient. But however, sometimes we do encounter difficulties with some applications with lack of important information to make an adequate assessment. However, notwithstanding this, we welcome your comment and to assure you that the orientation for the ministry is towards service of our people, and therefore we would use your comment to take a look inwards to see how best we can adjust and make sure that we are actually delivering in a timely manner. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to go to some WhatsApp questions. One person wants to know, he says, good night. I would like to know when will the hotels and so be open. I work in the tourism industry and I've been home for a while now. Okay. Yes, and then someone has said, okay, can the PM let us know, for those of us who are still out of a job due to COVID, will we continue to get the $1,000 for the upcoming months? And then someone also said, I have filled in 2 forms online for the 1,000 stimulus help, and I have not received anything to date, and no one contacted me to inform me whether I was eligible or not. Does that mean I won't be getting anything? And if so, will it be backdated?
All right. Thanks. Very quickly, and what I would advise, if those that I said can print the WhatsApp questions, pass them to the panelists, it perhaps would lead to greater efficiency, as persons can determine those questions pertinent to their particular line. With respect to the hotel opening, this is a matter that we will know as time passes, meaning the borders basically are closed. The borders are closed for health reasons. A determination has to be made when it is safe for us to open the borders. And that is a matter that our CMO, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Lodge, and her associates, in particular, Dr. Cameron Wilkerson, and Mr. Abdias at the NEOC, are constantly engaged. They have had discussion this week, last week, with stakeholders in the tourism sector. They have had or should have had discussion today with representatives from the Ministry of Tourism. So that is a work in progress, and as we have information on which we could put greater certainty, we will certainly advise. We look at what is happening within the region to help guide our own decisions. And we see in cases where countries have opened up, the consequences have not been so pleasant. And in a number of them, there has been a return of the COVID-19. And so that tells us that we have to be relatively cautious, while of course being sensitive to the need for the economy to get back to near normalcy. We have always put the health of our people first in the fight against COVID-19. We shall continue to do so. Nonetheless, we will always be ready to seize the opportunity to ensure that St. Kitts and Nevis is ready to do business when the world at large is ready to do so. All over the world, there still remain restrictions in relation to travel. And in that regard, we are not an exception. And we are working and establishing the relevant protocols that will protect us. So we will have more information on that. I shall say that we are in almost, or at least, daily contact with some of the hotel operators, Koi Resort, Park Hyatt, etc. And we have a sense of their own thoughts with respect to the reopening. As soon as things are at a better level of certainty, we will be able to do more. I should add that workers and employees in these particular hotels, they have also been contacted, and they are aware of some approximate dates, because that is the best as you can have. Approximate time for the opening of these hotels, and the majority of them are looking at the last quarter opening. That is, of course, being dependent upon things not worsening in some of the key critical areas from which we source our tourists. North America, in particular the USA and Canada, Europe including the United Kingdom, and indeed our own region. We shall, and most of us are aware, that the difficulties being faced by regional airlines and the potential consequence that that holds for the way forward for interregional travel, which is significant in the context of St. Kitts and Nevis and accounts for about 20% of our tourism inflow. How long will the COVID benefit last? We are hoping that by and large, as we map out a pathway, a clear path for re-engagement of persons in the economy, less demands will be made for COVID resources. Already, for example, we have moved from a position where almost an entire country had been shut down to a steady position where the country is open 7 days per week, where almost every entity can now engage in economic activity, where at least 73% of the workers in the manufacturing sector are now back out to work. With these developments, we expect to see that reflected in a reduction in demand for COVID benefit. Clearly, if you are back out to work and you're reaching the threshold of $1,000 per month, you will not continue to receive the COVID payout from Social Security. It is intended to assist people who by and large had had a significant fall in their incomes and in particular had been unemployed and therefore not receiving flows. So as the economy opens up, as more persons are now put back on the breadline in employment, we expect to see less persons really having to rely upon COVID benefit. With respect to the question raised about filling in online, Mr. Maynard is here. He's ready to provide you with a solution. Maybe if you're lucky, he might even give you his cell number so that you can call and he can get the particulars of your name, address, former employer, etc. But let's see how lucky we are, Mr. Maynard.
Certainly, that person can come to my office tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., ask for Ms. Kimoy or Antonio Maynard, and we'll make sure that your payment is properly researched and get your monies in your bank account as soon as possible. We can boast and we can say that we had about a 90% success rate in rolling out of these funds. However, some persons' applications fell through the cracks. This is for a number of reasons. Persons actually have supplied incorrect bank account numbers, incorrect banking details, and other wrong information on the application forms. And so therefore, we found that a lot of payments actually came back from the banks. And we actually had to write checks for a number of persons. But I can assure you that once you are eligible and once you have applied before today, actually, because let me announce again that today was the deadline for you to apply for this very important stimulus fund. We believe that most people, 99% of the persons who are eligible have applied, and about 90% have received their monies. Of course, we have paid out $22 million. By tomorrow, by Wednesday, Thursday, we would have paid out $22 million. We would have paid over 8,000 persons. So, but a few persons fell through the cracks, but I can assure you that you will be paid retroactively once you can come to our offices and we'll sort out your application and your payments. Thank you very much.
Mr. Maynard, I have 2 additional questions via WhatsApp that you can answer.
Sure.
The first one is, as one of the tourism-dependent citizens affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, who is at home for 3 months, with assurance by my employer that I am still employed, but is benefiting from the social relief stimulus package, am I eligible for a severance package? And then...
That question would be best put to the Labor Department. I want to let you know.
Okay, and then...
Right away.
And then my question is, after being home for 3 months layoff, how much longer I have to wait to get a termination letter from my employer?
Again, that question is best put to the Department of Labor.
We will follow up tomorrow with the WhatsApp.
Yes.
The person who sent in the WhatsApp, I will definitely follow up with you tomorrow for sure. Do we have any more phone calls? If not, yes. Okay, so we don't have any more phone calls. I have a question for the Prime Minister and also for the Financial Secretary and the Deputy Financial Secretary, Mrs. Sylvia Manning-Gums, can also contribute to this. So, Prime Minister, when we look at what the COVID-19 modeling is suggesting, for instance, in the United States, which is one of our most important tourism partners, it appears as though we need to prepare for the long haul. For instance, many U.S. states have halted their reopening and imposed new pandemic orders. Florida, for instance, where we got direct flights and cruises from, being one of them. Granted, your administration has engaged in strong fiscal management and effective stewardship of the public purse, hence why you've been able to mount the largest stimulus package in the region. Indeed, we are in one of the strongest financial positions in the region, but what do you want to say to the people to encourage them to cope with these difficult circumstances financially, emotionally, and otherwise?
Thank you. The Financial Secretary will have a first go at that particular matter.
I think that I could be consistent in saying that from the standpoint of the Ministry of Finance, we continue to take a posture of guarded optimism, in that we are not going to wallow in negativity, so to speak, about the prospects. We recognize that there is a lot of uncertainty in the global economic sphere in terms of the U.S. However, we are conscious as well that in St. Kitts and Nevis, a lot has been done to protect our federation, and the results of our COVID numbers, our success in flattening the curve, has indeed put us in a position where we are able to engender a certain level of confidence. And so if there are persons in the United States who are very much interested in coming to the Caribbean region for a vacation, most definitely St. Kitts and Nevis would be identified as one of those places where people would want to visit. I think, though, that the opportunity is ready for us to concretize our approach, concretize the protocols that would be necessary to welcome our guests back to our shores. We also have to make sure that individually, in each of our households, we continue to observe the protocols. We cannot overemphasize the need for us to continue to observe the protocols. We can ill afford the scenario, the pessimistic scenario that I highlighted before, where we have shown good success, have gone through our deep contraction, and now we are going to be experiencing an uptick in terms of a recovery, and then VAM. We let down our guards, we stop doing the social distancing, we stop observing proper hygiene, we stop observing the wearing of the mask in situations where we are not able to practice social distancing. And so, as basic as these things may sound, they are the crux of the matter of making sure that St. Kitts and Nevis is ready for opening. The other aspects of the fears about importing COVID again, we have to make sure that we put the proper protocols in place. And the reality is that we have to learn to coexist with COVID. How do we do that? I do not have all the answers. But the basic protocols must be observed because it is one of the key success factors in our recovery. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to get the Deputy Financial Secretary in, Mrs. Sylvia Manning-Gums.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. and good night, one and all. Good night, Prime Minister and the other panelists. Just to add to what the Financial Secretary had indicated, this is a good time for us to embrace change. We would have seen in recent times since the lockdown, we've had all the virtual meetings, we've had virtual parties, we've had virtual everything. And it's time that COVID is going to be around for a while. So it's time that we have to look at how we do business. It's a change in how we do business. We have to focus more now on productivity, where persons can now work from home. You don't always have to be in the office 8 to 4. Productivity and competitiveness, those are what are going to be key and to help to get us out of this. We have to use the technology more, but at the same time, we have to be cognizant of our demographic. We have persons of all age ranges, the young, not so young, the elderly, and we have to be cognizant that we cannot leave out any particular group of persons. But it's going to be a new way of doing business. It should improve over time. I don't think that we're going to ever get back to what we know as the normal, but hopefully when we come out of this, it will be for the better at some point. In the meantime, for us on a personal level and for the government as well, what we are encouraging for persons to examine the needs versus the wants. At this point, we have to look and see what it is we really need. The wants will come at a later time. It is not business as usual, as I said. It's a new way of thinking, and we'll have to use what we have to our disposal. We have talent throughout the Federation and in the diaspora that we can bring to the fore, and we need to make the best of the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I quickly add that one of the challenges which we face is what other sectors or niche could a small island state develop that will provide income for its people, provide job opportunities in a sustainable way. Again, because we have the constraint of small size, there are not too many opportunities that are available for a small island to engage in. However, having regard to the play of technology in the landscape, ICTs, what has happened in the virtual world, we have to begin to look at other engagements in the field of ICT. What high-end services, for example, can we begin to create a niche for St. Kitts and Nevis, which allow our people to, again, get well-paying jobs and to do interesting, intellectually stimulating work. We have to again look at new areas. And in our manifesto and throughout the campaign, we began the conversation about a new ministry targeting entertainment, entrepreneurship, and talent development. Talent development is what the Deputy Secretary ended on, that within our country and across the citizenship of St. Kitts and Nevis being held here and elsewhere, we have a talented pool of people, and they must be engaged in a constructive way to assist in the task of nation building. Entertainment is a billion-dollar industry, very significant throughout the world, has impacted significantly in some countries of the region better than most. Jamaica, for example, has had the lead in terms of its people earning significant sums. St. Kitts and Nevis, we are no less talented, and we can engage more directly in entertainment, in the film industries. And all of this perhaps will provide another layer, another buffer on which we can rely in times of difficulty. We also have again to look at telemedicine. This was something several years ago. The country had begun a conversation, largely as a result of the work of a former Governor General, Sir Cuthbert Sebastian. We need to move this platform in a more health-conscious world, because again, with all the interplay of ICTs, of technology, and the mobility of skills through that way, St. Kitts and Nevis perhaps has an opportunity with the build-out of universities engaged in health services, with the build-out of new entities engaged in the provision of health. I think that this area will become much more alluring in the not too distant future. So these are some of the alternatives and other areas which can certainly supplement what we are doing in St. Kitts and Nevis, help us to generate revenue, help us to create job opportunities for our people, and to have the multiplier effect, allowing this to change the landscape of St. Kitts and Nevis. So we are thinking through these things, and at least here we have begun not just the conversation, we have begun to look at the institutional response by creating a new ministry which will focus on how we could bring these particular new areas in terms of looking to them for creating meaningful employment, high-paying job, and foreign exchange for St. Kitts and Nevis. In that regard, we may well have a head start, and we will look to see how quickly we can build out this new ministry and set it to work to the advantage and benefit of the good people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you very much. And I have one comment on WhatsApp. It says, blessed good evening to the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, distinguished panelists. I would like to see considerations be given to persons who have and continue to contribute to Social Security be allowed to borrow towards their contributions made or used as collateral for business loans. Just an idea for the appropriate personnel. Prime Minister, great job on your leadership and the management of our economy. God bless you and your Team Unity administration. And it certainly cannot be said enough how much Prime Minister Harris and his Team Unity administration have led on COVID-19 policy. Pretty early on, we have, for instance, mandated the wearing of masks, which in other parts of the world has become a little bit of a political football. But Prime Minister Harris has been pretty decisive on this and other matters with response to COVID-19. So we thank him very, very much for his steady leadership. At this point, I will turn to the panelists to make their any closing remarks that they have. And we'd like to end on an optimistic note for the future vision of the future of St. Kitts. So St. Kitts and Nevis, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So I'll invite Mr. Let's go with Mr. Maynard first.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And let me comment on the question that was asked about the idea to have loans against personal Social Security contribution. And let me make it very clear that the Social Security Fund is in a very strong and sound financial position. This is according to the 12th Actuary Review, which was tabled in Parliament last year by the Honorable Minister for Social Security. And based on the audited financial statement for 2018 the total reserve stands at over $1.6 billion. And so the board of directors will be considering several ideas in their reform recommendations in the short, medium, and long term moving forward. And that might be one of the ideas that might be considered. To wrap up, on behalf of the Minister, Board of Directors, management and staff at the Social Security Board, I would like to express sincere gratitude to all of our stakeholders and partners, including the Department of Labor, the many insured employees and employers, as well as the different companies and institutions, and the now former Minister for Social Security, the Honorable Vance Amory, who have worked with us tirelessly over the past 4 months in rolling out these crucial payments under very difficult circumstances. We are thanking you all for your patient tolerance and understanding. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome our new and esteemed Minister for Social Security, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton. The Board of Directors and senior management is looking forward in working with you very closely in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll ask the Financial Secretary, Mrs. Hillary Hazel, to give her closing remarks.
Thank you. In closing, I would like to draw attention to the fact that past fiscal discipline by the government has brought us to a point where the government is able to respond in the way that it has in terms of keeping the country safe, being able to expend the resources that are necessary to purchase and to support the health sector, purchase personal protective gear and to support the health sector in general. Up to this point, the government has not had to rely on loan financing to carry out and to carry the costs of the government's response to date. This is indeed a tremendous success. The government is therefore committed to ensuring that it plays a lead role in partnership with the private sector in moving our country forward. We therefore invite any additional comments that would help to frame the path towards recovery and transformation. We do not have all the ideas, and it is by bringing all the ideas to the table that we would achieve success. And so I would want to see this evening's session as the start of a conversation that must continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister Harris.
Thank you very much, and let me start by again thanking our beloved citizens, residents, and well-wishers for calling in on tonight's Leadership Matters. Leadership does in fact matter a great deal, and we had an opportunity in the last elections to evaluate the leadership that will work for the future. I contrasted in the last general election the picture, what the country faced, an opportunity to move forward in leap and bounds, or an opportunity to go back. And I feel confident that in the choice in the last elections, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis indicated in overwhelming numbers that their preference is to go forward to the safer and stronger future outlined by my administration. I want to say thank you. It is now a sacred duty, an honor, and a privilege for me to lead a team of individuals who can, in fact, deliver on the promise and the commitment to make our people safer. Safer in terms of our own security. And we have been doing an excellent job, and I hail all the security forces. Safer in terms of our provision of health care. And our health sector now stands at the best ever in terms of its ability to deliver efficient and effective services to our people. We have started to build out our community healthcare facilities. Just last week, or was it on Monday, we had the opening of the Tabernacle Health Center, which has become the model as to the spatial requirements for the delivery of health care that will put the preventive arm out so that our people will not have to become hospitalized and engage in deep suffering. The prevention is better than the cure. And indeed, in our fight against COVID-19, we have put prevention against the cure. For the cure will be painful, and the cure could at times fall short of what is required, as we have seen around the world, resulting then in death. The stronger future is about a stronger economy. It is about putting every able-bodied man and woman to work to support himself, herself, his or her family, and the community at large. And we are still committed to do that. The actions that we have taken during the COVID-19 and which we are proposing to take our country forward would certainly lead to greater empowerment of our people in a wide range of areas. Tonight we began that conversation about some new and important areas in which we can become involved with as a country. What the COVID-19 has shown by and large, that when danger and pandemics and crises come, we have as a people to look at ourselves first and foremost. The Financial Secretary made a major point of note that in all that we have been doing, in mobilizing $120 million of commitment to fight COVID, we have not borrowed 1 cent. We have not borrowed 1 cent because we have managed the country well over the last 5 years. We have managed the country and we have been developing it. And as a result, no one has to ask where the money gone. The money is reflected in the build-out of our economic infrastructure, our road network, our second cruise pair, our health infrastructure, our education infrastructure, our ability to respond to our students who were challenged in countries more powerful than we are, where we were forced to bring them back home to shelter them from hardship. We have been doing all these things because we have been prudent in managing the fiscal resources of the country. Going forward, we have to, as a people, find the strength within always to do the best we can each day. The best we can today, because tomorrow may be too late. And that is something we have to learn and we have to practice, each one of us. Sometimes we are waiting for tomorrow. Sometimes we are waiting for perfection. Sometimes we are waiting for more resources, when the urgency and the imperative of the times demand we do the best we can today. We'll be more resourceful. COVID-19 has taught us a good lesson. Sometimes the numbers are too large. So COVID-19 says that work with less people. Let people work at home, and only those who are necessary for conducting the operations should be at work. A wonderful story has emerged about our size of our workforce, the resources we are spending, and whether we are getting value for money. And that is something over time, as we take stock of where we are as a people and as a country, as we take stock of the need for greater production and productivity, we have to evaluate again how we are doing things. Are there better ways? And usually the answer will be, there are better ways. As a student of history, I recall the situation in the turbulence of Jamaica when the slaves were rioting as they usually would in Jamaica. And the message went out to the Queen that your, as it were, subjects needed your help. The Queen responded that it was to their industry and ingenuity to which the subjects must look for their own amelioration. And that response has stuck with me for a very long time. At first I thought that the Queen then was a little bit callous to have said to a suffering people that it is to your industry and ingenuity to which you must look. I have come many years after, having looked at it again, to notice how correct the Queen was. We must always look to ourselves as a people to find that pathway to a better future. And yet, as a new independent nation, we continue the onerous task of nation building. I too wish that more citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis would look to their industry, their hard work, their understanding about the principle of a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, an understanding that laziness will not prosper and laziness will not help us in the task of nation building. An appreciation that we are a talented people. And if we are talented, then we look to our ingenuity. Could we find a synonym? Could we look to our creativity? Could we look to our imagination? Because again, we must begin a task by imagining and dreaming of that stronger and safer future. And not only must the people in St. Kitts and Nevis imagine and dream of beautiful things, our institutions must be part of this reimagining of what the good life constitutes in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we send out the message to Social Security with its 1.6 billion, was it that you said, in reserve? 1.6 billion in reserve to begin the conversation with him, to see how this vast pool of resources can be used in a prudent way, support our efforts at nation building while still preserving resources to meet the demands, the liabilities as they crystallize by those who would have contributed to this scheme. I want to end on a final note of history. When Marcus Garvey visited us in 1937, he said that St. Kitts was a beautiful country. Not just beautiful in terms of the fiscal layout and the fiscality of the country, but beautiful by the message, the dreams, as he interacted with our people. And I think that was an important one. He went on to say that we can make St. Kitts and Nevis our Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is a metaphor for many things. A country that is self-sufficient. A country that is feeding itself with the fruits and the vegetables and the fishes. A country that is providing for the young and for the old. A country that has a reservoir of talent to take it to the next stage of development. I implore every boy and girl, every man and woman, St. Kitts and Nevis, to have a dream about creating your own Garden of Eden, your special place, and by extension help me, help Team Unity, help our country to realize that inspiration that Marcus Garvey left with us way back in 1937. We are going to make St. Kitts and Nevis the model of the best managed small island state. So thank you again for participating tonight. To God we give all thanks and glory.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for those very uplifting words. On behalf of all of you, our large and dedicated audience, I say a very special thanks to the Prime Minister and the other esteemed members of the panel. On behalf of all of us, we thank everyone watching and listening for making Leadership Matters appointment television, as well as such a huge success on radio and online. Tonight, I'd like to especially recognize Matron Nurse Sylvia Garnett, who watches every week from Florida. The Prime Minister referenced the renaming ceremony that was held on Friday in her honor. So we're happy to have her. Her patriotism, she's so energetic and spirited in her patriotism, and she's just energetic in general. Every morning when I wake up, I see her morning devotions via WhatsApp, so thank you. We thank our media partners, and we thank you again for spending your Tuesday night with us. Last Tuesday, Leadership Matters' 9th episode earned a ratings bonanza across ZIZ's Facebook and YouTube pages, with more than 12,000 people logging on to those two social media platforms alone to watch it live. Thanks again for joining us. Good night.